I'm here at Sage Ranch, and it has been raining last night and this morning. And I don't know if you can tell, but the land is completely different here. It's beautiful. It's as if the trees and the grasses and the whole earth, all the animals were sighing with relief. I have some thoughts on the topic of interference. For the first part of the time that I was a photographer, I looked for subjects that were etherically beautiful and in the natural world, and took photos of those. And sometimes they turned out real well, and sometimes they didn't turn out as well. Over the years, I got some photos that I love, and a lot of photos that weren't quite perfect to my sense of beauty. And just recently it took me a long time, but just recently I've realized that as far as photography goes in the cities, it's difficult to find unadulterated beauty and light. Most all the time when I take pictures, I have to hunt for something totally beautiful. So I started taking pictures that show the interference of the dark with light, and of the not so beautiful with the beautiful. And lots of times this has to do with the natural world and the flow and tide of the natural world as a kind of a completeness and a feeling of everything being together and flowering forth, you know. And the thing that I find to interfere with that in the cities is usually man-made stuff. And so it's as if I'll see things with angles and that don't flow, things with sharp angles, or like things that constrict and fence in and cut off, rather than things that just go from themselves naturally into some other, thing, like the grass flows into the trees, flows into the sky kind of a thing. It's not like that. It's like there are fences and cordons, and there are mental signs to stop someplace or to cease to flow, And to my mind, these are all like the product of the left brain. Our left brain has gotten somewhat overextended. And so it's interfering with our understanding of the natural order of things right now. Of course, everything's a little bit out of balance these days, not just the hemispheres of the brain. And interference has to do with the whole auric field, both outside ourselves and inside of our body. And we've talked about before distortions in the body of light, slight tweakings that have taken place that are distorting the emotional body, and also there's been I don't know the cause of it, but there's been a separation between the energy fields of the body, the mind, and the emotions. And this separation, like layering, is interfering with our understanding of most everything, But to go on to the topic of energetic interference. Between the various energies of the body, the mind, and the emotions, there are gaps, and within those energies there are inclusions of relative darkness. And in those spaces that are relatively dark resides the unconscious, the very deep unconscious individual components of the unconscious thought cloud of the world. The energy that drives the movement of this thought cloud, as I've said, is alien to us. But the dark inclusions in our energy field are the doorways through which the energy travels. And as our bodies of light clear, then there are less and less doorways for the energy to get into, until at some point the energy is unable to penetrate our aura anymore. And that's a good thing to look forward to. So, but now, we being the microcosm of the planet, each of us are in a state of what you might call disrepair right now. We need an overhaul. And I just had an attack of unconsciousness. And so, as we begin to distinguish the many different strands of energy that are like circulating through the world right now, what we find is relatively unconscious energies, relatively conscious energies, superconscious energies, all kinds of energies, all different textures of energies, all different feelings. All of these can come into us, and depending on the state of our body of light, they can come in more and more fully become a part of us. And so the situation right now is that there's an awful lot of inconscient energy out there roaming around and in us. And so on with the story. There are energies in the world for those that are sensitive to like energetic flow. There's an intertwining right now across the surface of the earth, and probably deep within it and high above it. But I'm just walking around the surface, And I see intertwinings of energy. And they're more like threads whirling and combining and disappearing and falling back and like that. And some of these energies are deeply disturbing to me. And so I'll give you an example. And this example that I actually clairaudiently saw a few weeks back is supported by the clairaudient stuff that I've been hearing, constantly for a long time, and some other experiences that happened to me that I won't go into in the last couple of years. So, but this is a very pithy example of interference. Okay. So I was I was looking at some architectural prints in an exhibit, and there was a gentleman there to my right who he appeared to be a very sweet, good-hearted person, very knowledgeable person about these prints, and he was describing them. And he came from one print, and it all looked like, he really knew what he was talking about. It was very clear. And he was very, educated and, measured in his speech, and you know what I mean? And so he came to this one print and paused and said, and he was explaining this print, and he said, "This is a good example of," and then it was as if his mind went blank for a moment, it seemed, and the word that came out, what he said was porn. This is a good example of porn. Now, as a picture of architecture. So that got my attention. So I looked to see what was going on, and what I saw was twining, very thin strands of twining white light going into the right side of his brain with tiny pinpoints of light here and there. Not many, just a few pinpoints of light in it. So I waited and watched. It was as if he had suddenly been hypnotized for a moment. And I waited and watched for the space of a minute, and the energies receded back out. I don't know where they went after that. Though whatever they were, they receded back out, and he started discussing once again the prince in a natural way. It's not the first instance I've seen of something like that. And I have some ideas about it. I think that are kind of hopeful, actually, and some thoughts about ways to observe and react. I think that there is a force, as I've mentioned before, roaming the world. I call it the unconscious thought cloud of the world. And I've talked about it a lot of times, written about it. Now, what I haven't known till recent years is that it's highly intelligent and motivated towards the downfall of humanity. Not so cool. I used to think of it as like a conglomerate of thoughts that we all have. But in recent years, it appears to be very intelligent and like on a mission to preserve duality, the 3D experience. And so some of us are becoming aware of this energy, like very aware. And I wouldn't be surprised if in that energy that I saw carried along on a stream into the mind of that good human being and then departing from it, maybe the very bright little lights that I saw were the conscious, were the awareness of those who are conscious of what's going on. And the rest of it was like unconscious stranding of energy that's being carried along through this force and this other intelligence, So that's just a thought, that might be the case. And so then today I've had, opportunities to think, what do we do when we're aware of a dark attack? How do we react to that? Should we react to that or should we not, And the conclusion that I've come to after lengthy internal debate is that the more we feel love in our hearts, the more we refuse to make that distinction between darkness and inconscience and light and awareness, the more we think of the whole world as imbued with light and love and grace, the better off everyone is. Fighting the good fight is no longer de rigueur. It's a little passé, I mean, who's able to deal with this energy? Us on the horizontal plane? I don't think so. I think who's really capable of dealing with it, and who is dealing with this, is the people that the presences on the higher planes that are helping us, those of us who are aware. So if we call in our celestial team, or some say the star nations, or any great master, or any archangel or angel, any saint that we really look up to, those kinds of energies, and ask them or the divine itself, ask them to act through us for the sake of for the sake of everyone in the world, for the entire universe and all the alternate universes, they're going to know what to do. At least they're going to have a much better grasp of the situation than I do, So all I do by getting into the fray is increase the fray. And by bringing in all that grace and light and beauty, then I increase the 5D energies on Earth, and it's those energies that will make the dark brighter until finally it's nothing but brightness, and no one can be affected in their unconscious mind by it anymore. In fact, there'll be no unconscious mind. It's a lot to say. But there, I've said it. I'm wishing you all a wonderful night, pleasant dreams, and a sweet awakening in the morning, and may all your days be full of sunshine. Unless you need rain, in which case, may you get just the right amount of rain. Talk to you later.